Welcome to a new episode of Education Exchange. It's a beautiful winter night, warm, and I'm in the company of two eminent, wonderful people in our community. My co-host, Mr. Phil Hemingway,
Thank you,
on
Hani.
the right side, and the rising star of our education system, our city council, our Iowa City young, new energy, Mr. Botchway.
Thank you.
Mr. Kingsley Botchway had just accepted the position of Director of Equity and Staffing in the Iowa City Community School District.
Yeah.
In addition, of course, to his role that's known to everybody in the community as a City Council member.
Correct.
Congratulations to us before you.
Thank
We
you.
are winning, and we are hopeful that with you on top or on the helm of this position, that we are going to have a new era of vision, a new era of health, justice, equity, and equality.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Botchway, as Hani alluded to, a lot of the people in the community know you from your city council position. Can you give us a little history, your bio, so people who may not be as knowledgeable of your history, so we can get a feel for what makes you tick?
Oh, definitely. Well, I always like to say, it's great that, the winter night over here is mild because that's kind of like back home. And so, I'm originally from South Carolina. I went there for undergrad and got my Bachelor of Science in Criminology and Criminal Justice. Always was planning on going to law school in some capacity and was lucky to be chosen to go to the University of Iowa Law School. And so had a great experience there. And my passion has always been for helping people in some type of way, and so that's kind of where I've always been led. I spent a lot of time, even during the summers of working in law school, going through manuals, basically creating manuals, albeit for whether people for disabilities or working with drug treatment programs, trying to find some type of synergy between, the government and people. So trying to, be the go-between in those type of situations. And so I've had a lot of experience going through the guck and the muck as far as that is concerned, stuff that really people feel are boring. Worked at a nonprofit over Reach Your Potential, which, really kind of helped me from an HR standpoint, really understanding how to incorporate different people in different schedules, how to handle different situations, albeit harassment, complaints, whatever the case may be. And that kind of, parlayed into the work I did as Deputy Auditor of Elections for Johnson County. And that was, when working for Reach Your Potential, you work with, at times, because it's a nonprofit, over 100 people, trying to schedule and staff and worry about the different things. You do have an HR department that helps as well. But at the county, it was even more so, and granted we did have an HR department, but I was strictly in charge of hiring, at times, 300 to 400 individuals for any given election.
Mm-hmm.
And so, granted, there's a process to that, so
Sure.
don't think that I was, going through each
Correct.
application to that extent. But we have, you have the 300 and 400 people that work on election day, and then you also have, for the 2012 general election, we had about 100 people working in the office. And so that was an experience that really just helped me understand HR needs, helped me understand how to manage a large group of people, and dealing with complaints and things along those lines as well. My law degree helped as well because it focused a lot on compliance. It focused a lot on understanding, the new laws, the new laws being enacted, the old laws, and making sure that I had a good understanding of those things and was able to make sure that other people, whether that be other municipalities in Johnson County, or just making sure that we're compliant as well with all the things that go on. And then I think that led me to the position as Director of Equity and Staffing for the school district. I mean, a portion of my job is compliance. A good portion of my job is compliance. from an equity standpoint, and understanding that you're dealing with most of, if not all, the issues that arise in the school district from that standpoint, and making sure that we are being equitable and fair from a legal standpoint is going to be very important. But again, it goes back to that synergy between the community and making sure that we're doing what we can to involve the community in the process as much as possible. And so that's going to be really an exciting part of it. And I think that trying to figure out that role with the community and their input is going to be very important moving forward.
Phil and I had the impression from the first time we met you during the campaign for the city council that you are a visionary, very visionary leader who is not partisan, who is not biased, who is not manipulated by being a member of this party or that party. You have very global community outlook to events and issues. Mm-hmm. And we both shared this feeling, right, Phil?
Oh, yeah.
I think you mentioned to me.
Oh, yeah. I was quite taken by a presentation you made to one political party, which I don't think was yours. And it was very well received, and it was a message that I think everyone in the community shares, and that. So, no, we're all very anxious for your new successes and your new positions, and I also want you to know that the community's here to support you and to help you. So.
We were backstage talking about the challenge of this position.
Yes.
It was not really a gift to Mr. Botchway, but it can be a real challenge.
Yes.
Would you address some of the...
Well, definitely. I think Mr. Kingsley knows as well as any the challenges we're facing with meeting our district goals when it comes to administrative and other staffing goals being met, and making sure we get quality applicants, and that we, as we were discussing earlier on the branding, or I shouldn't say the branding, but the marketing right. of the district, and making sure that people understand that we're not just a farm team district where mm-hmm. people get a start and then go other places to reach higher goals, that people can come here, and work their way up and get into positions. Would you elaborate on your thoughts, or as one board member likes to say, your top 3 takeaways on the position, or that as far as what you think getting into it?
Well, you kind of alluded to it a little bit, is one of the things that I've been really successful at is what I talked about as far as, the synergy, working towards, helping the community, but also understanding the government process and how those two things can come together. But the other thing is, looking at this from a think out of the box standpoint, I have a different mentality, I have a different energy because of that. And so I'm looking at it from the standpoint of marketing differently. And so one of the things I think we kind of talked about or alluded to before was the, Iowa City, this area, Johnson County overall is education. When you think about, I didn't know necessarily that ACT started here, but I knew very well that, ACT was very important for me, possibly going into college. And so, you have Pearson, that's an excellent organization that helps, bring jobs to the area and does a lot for education as well. You have a wonderful university that, we have just in our backyard, the Department of Education that, has put on a lot of free events to help educate teachers, can provide a master's. There's just different things that are available to people that we just need to do a better job is just getting out there. It's not anything against the school district. It's just having a different perspective and a different perspective on how to market and approach people in a different way. Making sure, and you alluded to it as well, talking about, while diversity is something that helps everybody, because you not only have people who then feel more comfortable in the classroom from a minority standpoint, but you also have individuals from the majority of people that understand that when they leave, for whatever reason, hopefully they stay, especially for the brain drain, but when they leave, they get a better understanding of what the world is. They get a better understanding when they go to bigger cities or whatever the case may be. And so, that's the diversity I think the district is interested, that I'm interested in pushing forward, because it really helps everybody and gets to the point where we have, again, a diverse group of well-qualified candidates that can come in and help us out. We have, we have 3 new schools being built. We have a lot of different changes that make this area a very interesting and important area for a lot of people to come to. And so I'm excited about my role. I mean, kind of going back to your question as far as, that was the first thing. The second thing being just the overall vision is trying to play a go-between, try to help people understand the process, engage the community as much as possible, to become a part of that process. There's wonderful things that I've learned just in literally the last 2 weeks, not only from the team that surrounds me, but just from going to a couple of conferences and being able to talk to some of the great minds just here within the state, other equity directors who have done a wonderful job as far as bridging that gap and bringing the community in and changing the diversity of their staffing. And so that's going to be an important piece as well. And then thirdly, again, it goes back to thinking outside the box, doing things differently. There's, I think in Cedar Rapids, they have a situation where teachers, can dine with, other people to encourage diversity, encourage mentoring, because I think too frequently we get into situations where we think about our job, and we think about our job as being all-encompassing, and people want to have ties to the community, and that's one of the reasons why I stayed. I spent a lot of time mentoring youth. I spent a lot of time getting out in the community, and so it made me not want to leave. And I think that's where we need to focus a lot of our energy on. What can we do to help people develop those ties from a community standpoint? And there are tons of community members that have already come up and talked to me about, hey, I'm willing to be a mentor. I'm willing to step up to the plate and make sure that when we do get, diverse and qualified candidates here, we help them stay. We help them, find newer positions. We help them, matriculate up into administration. And I think that's important. And I think that's something that the district is interested in doing and moving forward on.
So I can take by your response that your youthful exuberance, you're open to new ideas. You're not necessarily fixed on entrenched systems, and are going to be open to new thoughts and new directions.
Definitely. I mean, I think the reason why I'm so excited about the position is that I can literally come into the position and always ask the question why. And when you have a lot of experience working in K through 12 or working in education, you know a lot of the things that already have occurred or already happened. But coming from a different type of environment, I can come in and just ask why and understand the process, and hopefully through that understanding I can help others understand the process, but also raise some questions that maybe haven't been raised in a long time. And there's always this mantra that once the question is asked, maybe it shouldn't be asked again, and I'm not one of those
Good.
people.
Excellent.
I like to, if it's been asked in the past and it's something that hasn't been done for whatever reason, it might have been not right for that time. And so it might be a good thing to ask that question again and figure out, this might be the time and the place to put it forward. And so I definitely get excited about talking about these things because I know the community has a lot of questions. I obviously in my new position have a lot of questions. And I think going forward, just based on everything that I've worked with the admin team on in such a short amount of time, they're invested and interested in doing as much as possible to make this, the best place to raise your kids and work. So I'm excited about that. That's,
excellent.
You don't necessarily get an opportunity to work a job where you can get excited about being on the forefront of change and that type of level. And so it makes you feel pretty good.
Two things now. I would like to move to one of the hot topics that has been controversial, and now it's, as a matter of fact, the subject of discourse and dialogue in our community now, which is focused on the diversity policy and the district approach to it. And what seems from or through the media to be a conflict between what the Department of Education sees as diversity policy and what our community here or how our community approaches this issue. So can you address this in more simplified way?
Well, basically, we're trying to do things that isn't currently done in the state. You know, other people have diversity plans. Those diversity plans speak to open enrollment policies. And so I've heard a lot of commentary about, you know, well, why can't we, you know, just do what everybody else is doing? And that's because we're trying to, you know, be a trailblazer to that extent because, again, you know, as soon as I got the position, I looked into, you know, Des Moines and other places that have similar, or that have diversity plans, and again, they speak to open enrollment. They don't necessarily speak to moving people within the district, which is unheard of, obviously in the state. And so that's the first part. You know, the district has the best intentions of, you know, the kids and obviously the schools and trying to do what is necessary, I think, to try to make sure that, you know, people aren't placed in disadvantaged situations. There's more opportunity and allowing people to have a chance, and to that extent. Now, whether or not, based on some of the obviously the media that's come out and the Department of Education's thoughts on the matter, there needs to possibly be a reimagining. And this is one of those situations where I can insert, you know, that why. You know, what can we do? I mean, why are we doing it this way? Are there other ways to come to a common goal? But I think it's an awesome opportunity. I mean, I know that it is a negative. I know it's a negative to feel like you're going to get sued, or, you know, somebody's telling you not to do something or rescinding policy. But I see it as a positive. There were a lot of questions about the diversity policy that came out in the beginning. There are still questions that continued, I think, from yourself, other people's on the board as well, through the entire community. But I think it's an opportunity to, you know, really, you know, spend some time, look at it, you know, learn from our past mistakes as far as, you know, the community felt like, you know, they weren't as engaged. There were some board members that had some serious questions. Try to figure out if we can get some commonality between the community, the board, and the administration. You know, granted, time is ticking. You know, I know it's coming up January 31st when we need to have some type of decision. But I also think this is a prime opportunity to look at it and seriously ask some questions why of, you know, what we're trying to accomplish, articulate those things to the community and push them forward.
Some of the emails that I received from people who knew through the social media that I'm going to see you is the fact that there were a lot of sensitivity about the disclosure of some personally identifiable information that relates to students, which is mainly derived from their educational records. Privacy protection is a very important topic here, and we have used, or it has been suggested by the current board, that we have to use the criteria of reduced and free lunch as a way of defining who in need for help. In other words, it has been kind of the only way we see now as the one that's going to be used to differentiate between the people who are well-to-do and people who are in desperate need. I myself feel somehow that if we use this as the only criterion, we are somehow stigmatizing people, especially in high schools, maybe not in elementary schools. Kids are innocent, they are pure, they are not yet. But in high school, when people look at their shoes and compare themselves with their coats, it would be terribly traumatic for a kid when this kid is identified as a poor kid or in desperate need. And do you think there are any other ways that we can use in order to make this kind of differentiation between the people who are in need and the people who are well off.
Well, I think you kind of spoke about it a little bit in your question. Obviously there's one way, that's one way we've done it. And again, like I talked about before, I mean, this is an opportunity to look at different ways. You got to be careful though, because, using, race as an identifier as well doesn't necessarily always speak to people of need. Using achievement doesn't necessarily always speak to people. I myself, in particular, that situation, I didn't necessarily grow up in a really nice home, but my parents made sure that I strived to achieve, and I got good grades, and my sister as well. And so, it's tough to find what particular identifiers you could use to really, help people in need without asking those people for whatever reason. So again, it's a tough question. I believe, just from research, just from not necessarily just focus on diversity policy, but other research, when you have these particular problems trying to solve these particular problems, you use a host of information. You use a bunch of identifiers. And that one, I think it helps people understand, or it alleviates the comments that this is people feel like it's focusing on, the FRL part of it, focusing on strictly socioeconomics. At least there's other identifiers there that I wouldn't say mask, but for lack of a better word, mask the process of, trying to make the entire school district more diverse through this policy. But again, it's a tough question that I'm glad is being put forth again to find out, what other things can we use to do a better job. And I can guarantee you, from an administration standpoint, the administration is taking this very seriously. I mean, as soon as it came out, it was one of those things where everybody dropped what they were doing and had some discussion on the issue. I mean, it's important.
Well, what is you're fresh in the position. I know it's tough, but what do you think? Status quo is not satisfactory with where we are right now, with our diversity in our schools. Besides that, some of the biggest challenges you foresee right at the beginning. And before I forget, I also just wanted to comment, don't be afraid to ask the question why, even after you've been in the position for 5 or 6 years.
That's true. That's very true.
You can always go back. But what do you think is going to be your biggest challenge, whether it is in marketing or whether it is in recruitment, those types of things? What immediately do you think is going to be the most pressing?
Getting everybody on the same page.
Okay.
It's you have multiple schools, you have an administration, you have a community, and if we could all come together and figure out some common ground and move forward on that common ground, I think it would be tremendously better. We're not going to be able to recruit the people that we need to recruit unless we have the community involved, unless we have the administration in lockstep with the schools, and unless we have the administration and the schools in lockstep with the community. And so it's going to be getting people on the same page. Unfortunately, from a public standpoint, and also in the position as well. I mean, just from the meetings that I witnessed on, again, before the position and while I've been a part of the position, at times it seems like we're not always in lockstep. Some of that is just from miscommunication. We need to do a better job as far as communicating more effectively with our schools, but more importantly with the community. And other parts is just, it's that same page is such an important thing. I know I don't want to leave it on such a not a big term.
Sure.
But it's important from that standpoint, because I think people, at least the community members that I've talked to, have been upset from not being a part of the process for whatever reason, or not understanding why the school district has done things in a certain way. And
transparency.
So transparency is another word that gets thrown around that, I think the school district has to take a look at. The community has to have some understanding that we're in a process of taking a look at. And again, I'm excited about being on the forefront of that change and that reimagining, and that that newness. So it's exciting.
How do you feel that our co-host is a watchdog in this community? He is a guy that keeps an eye on everything that they are doing in the Department of Education and the board policy.
Right.
And I am so happy that he shared with me today the
Well,
conversation
thank you for
with
the
you,
invitation.
Mr. Botchway.
Mhm.
And we give you 1 minute to talk to the community if you have any message to the community before we wrap it up.
Well, two things. One, I'm excited to, get a chance and speak with Hani. Hani is a very influential, I would even call you a mentor of mine, that, your ability to come in and take over the room is astronomical. And then, just to go back to Phil, I'm not necessarily, I'm new to the community still. I mean, I'm 7 years in, and it's been wonderful knowing Phil, albeit for short instances, but watchdogs can sometimes be used as a negative term.
I know.
But it's important that
I
you
always
have,
call him community conscious.
right. Well, it's
yeah.
important that you have somebody
Yeah.
who is willing to look at the details from a community standpoint and knows how to effectively approach whatever governmental body and talk about those different
Oh,
things.
it's very kind.
No, definitely. I'm sorry. But for me, I'm just excited about the new position. I'm excited about moving forward with the community and with a wonderful administration and superintendent that I have, and doing what's right. I know that sounds silly, but I think that I think I'm excited about doing that. I'm excited about people
You
feeling
are the
comfortable.
right person in the right place.
Thank you.
In the right time.
Thank you.
And we are so proud of you, and we are thankful that you have accepted this position.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And accepted all the challenge that it brought with it. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to wrap it up. I could have asked, and Phil could have asked hundreds of questions tonight, but we are so happy to have you.
Thank you.
And wish you all the best on behalf of John Karhoff, Mike Peterson, and our team at Public Access TV here. We congratulate you and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Success and bliss.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a very good, wonderful night.